It's time to begin the semifinals here at the Hearthstone Grand Prix. Thank you so much, everyone who's tuned in. I'm joined by Brian Kibler and Knox. We'll be bringing you guys the casting for the next series as well, which is between TerrenceM and JBillyB.
Yes.
My favorite man. And it's going to be between two American players guaranteeing USA finalist here. Of course, Chalky will be playing against Peyton in the second semifinal coming up, and we're going to go back-to-back. Now, Terrence, of course, he's a player that I think everyone's attention has been caught by now. He's been playing very technically sound. He's got a really unique lineup. Love that he's able to bring the control decks as well. I think a lot of times when players bust onto the scene, some people don't respect it as much because they're playing like aggro stuff or whatnot. And it's a little bit unfair, but I think Terrence has really brought the control-heavy stuff and really impressed a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen actually similar quality play and interesting decks from JBillyB as well. He has that Shaman deck, which is very unique among decks we've seen in this event. 2 copies of Earth Elemental have really shut down a lot of his aggressive opponents.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the Earth Elemental. We're talking about that in the crowd a little bit with some of the players that dropped out. It's just one of those things where, like against Priest, for instance, we saw earlier that between the 7-7 and the 7-8, at some point you run out of Shadow Word Death and Entombs. Like, you just don't have enough pressure, enough removal to counter the pressure. And so eventually something sticks, and then you get taken down by that over time.
We do have the lineups once again for both these players. Terrence, to remind anyone who has who's forgotten, or to anybody who's new joining the stream, he's bringing a Rogue, a Warlock that is a Reno Lock, a Shaman, as well. Oh, it's on screen. As well.
Yeah, it's on screen. As well as a Patron Warrior.
As well as a Warrior.
Yeah, we have seen all those decks, I believe, so far. His Warrior was Patron, and that Reno Lock deck that he's performed so well with throughout the weekend has been banned for this match.
So it's kind of
That's
the wild card.
Yeah, I think the first time that Reno Lock has been banned, at least intentionally. Some people maybe ban Warlock, assuming it's Zoolock. But that's part of the flexibility of the class. Now, over in JBillyB land, we have Zoo Shaman, the Paladin, as well as the Warrior.
And I believe we've actually only seen the Shaman and Warlock from JBillyB. I don't think we've seen the Paladin.
We haven't had to.
At least not
on
stage.
just
You're
yet.
right. Yeah. But
his opponents have.
But Terrence certainly knows what it is. He has the deck lists. But most importantly, BillyB has not skipped a beat with his positive, upbeat attitude.
That is
I just love the alliteration as I do it. And I know Kibler's jolly as well. So taking a look at their lineups and how they clash here, now that we know the bans as well, are you guys favoring a specific class or a specific player here? Now that you guys know like what's being banned and whatnot.
Well, I know that JBillyB was saying in his ban strategy before that his lineup in general is quite aggressive. And that he was looking to target the more sort of controlling decks in an opponent's lineup with his ban, which makes a lot of sense, taking the handlock deck out of the equation. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly his Paladin Warrior decks do look like with that particular strategy.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, because if you mentioned they're aggressive, then that means the Paladin might be something a bit like the Kyuki version of Paladin that we saw with some sort of Darkshire and Selfless Heroes.
I was trying to convince some players, because some of them were talking about before the tournament. Some players were talking about how there's no good aggro decks outside of Shaman. And I was like, well, what about aggro Paladin? And someone said, oh, you know what? You're right. Maybe we could build something, but then it's too late. They were past the deadline. They couldn't submit new decks. It's like, maybe we could have built something. That's part of the equation, too. Could players figure out the good lineups before DreamHack began? Now, after you've seen everything compete in the Grand Prix, I'm sure everyone has an idea of what a good lineup is for this tournament. But, did you know that 4 days ago?
Prior to it, yeah, exactly.
When it was just like barely a week when the expansion has come out. So, very exciting times indeed. And, at this point, I guess, all questions are out the window for the players, but for us, we're still a little bit in the dark here.
Yeah, we aren't sure exactly what those 2 decks do look like for JBillyB, and exactly how they line up against Terrence's deck. We've seen all of Terrence's decks so far. I don't believe we've actually seen him play Rogue on stream yet, but sort of assume it's Miracle Rogue. We haven't really seen other styles throughout this event.
Right, I think we've seen him once playing Rogue in one of the matchups that he had prior to it.
Do you think JBillyB brought the aggressive Warrior?
I'm hoping so.
You guys are talking a lot about Pirate Warrior.
Yeah.
I played it for sure. Like it's a fun deck. I don't really think it's that competitive, but everyone keeps trying to sell me this Pirate Warrior.
It is you really can't stop it when it gets the ball rolling. And the thing is, Arcanite Reaper is just the card you can't do anything about. It comes down and you're just not prepared. And if they have upgrade at all, Captain Greenskin or the Bloodcell Cultist, suddenly you're facing down 18 damage over a few turns and you're dead.
But can't you just like Feral Spirit in Arcanite Reaper? I don't know. I guess
okay, sure.
I just feel like it doesn't. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many
Frost
better.
shock.
Okay, here's the thing.
What's up? Go.
Some of the pirates are great.
Yes.
I'm not against pirates. Okay.
No.
I'm open-minded. It's 2016. We can be free-spirited. But I think what really gets me is that they're just better versions of warrior. They're just like you can play the control warrior, which is done great. You can do patron warrior, which is no one can argue against patron. It's a very well-established deck. You can play temple warrior. But why do you choose this warrior to play? And especially if you're playing in last year's standing, if you have a deck or if you have a deck that's good against aggro and you play all kind of aggro decks, then you might just get swept by a deck that happens to be very good against all kinds of aggro.
It's true, though. I mean, I think that there's definitely some power to the more aggressive warrior decks. I was actually just talking to That's Admirable, who's playing in one of the side events here at DreamHack, and he was saying that he made some swaps to his Grim Patron deck and actually swapped out the Grim Patrons themselves. He's already playing Arcanite Reapers. He just really wanted to get some extra damage in.
So no patron.
No patrons and patron warrior.
Well, no, he had them in the main event, swapped them out for Argent Commander just to go face even more.
You know what?
Very successful in the side
Sure,
event
you
here.
kill Gadsden Auctioneers and Azure Drakes, and you'll catch some people off guard with it.
It matches up very well, and for for opponents who don't necessarily have access to your full deck list, like we do here in the top 16, it can come as a very big surprise and catch them off guard.
Yeah, that surprised me. I wasn't ready for that at all.
Not even a player.
Not ready at all.
Yeah.
Well, let us know what you guys think. The winner of this is guaranteed at least $4,000, as well as a good chunk of Hearthstone Championship Tour points. For the summer, it's going to be coming up. It's not going to be for spring, because I know people are looking at prelims next week, and they're like, well, do they get points directly for that? It's for the summer season. Every day after May, a tournament qualifies for that. So maybe we'll be able to see Terrence and JBillyB coming up, and let us know. Hashtag DHATX16 on Twitter, and let them know who you're cheering for. Semifinal number 1 is about to begin. TerrenceM versus JBillyB. We hand off to Kibler and Noxious.
And it will be JBillyB with the Zoo deck against Terrence playing Shaman. This is typically a matchup that tends to favor the Warlock.
Right, but the thing is that Terrence's deck is very much like a standard aggro list, so there's no surprises with the Earth Elementals like JBillyB brought before. So it's going to be very much about who has the board control, which is why a card like Tunnel Trog and Fell Spirit in the opening hand is excellent. And this hand from Terrence is one of the best ones, I imagine, to face off against the board control style Zoo.
Yeah, this is definitely an excellent hand for Terrence. He has not only the Tunnel Trog to start things off, but the ability to potentially coin out Feral Spears to protect it, which is huge here since JBillyB does not currently have any way to actually power up his minion to kill the Tunnel Trog if it were to be played on turn 1.
So that's an interesting play, and probably a good one at that, if you really think about it, because it takes care of the possible abusive Sergeant that might come out if you're looking to protect your Trog on turn 2, or even here on the coin, if you're hoping to just play the Tunnel Trog right now, even without overload support on the following turn.
Yeah, so this, as you mentioned, protects it from any sort of attack buff. We know that JBillyB doesn't have that buff in his hand, but Terrence is playing around the possibility. In many cases, people who are watching a game will be like, okay, well, why didn't he do this? He would have just been, it would have been so good. But, Terrence here, he's playing around the fact that there are a significant number of attack boosts in the Zoo deck and doesn't want to expose his Tunnel Trog to getting killed.
And here, instead of playing the Tunnel Trog, decides to play the Argent Squire. The reasoning is, if I ever need to attack into something to deal 1 damage, which undoubtedly I will, then it's useless to damage my Trog unnecessarily, especially after the play that he made to protect it. So playing the Argent Squire gives him a possible 50-50 against the Knife Juggler, or even here, if it had hit the Possessed Villager, he would have been able to take it out.
All right, well, the Flame Juggler does not hit the Villager. JBillyB looks to be playing the Councilman, taking out the shield from Argent Squire, pumping up his Councilman a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually really, right now, there's really no way for Terrence to handle this aside from picking up another answer in his deck, so something like Lightning Bolt, but not quite there. This Councilman is quite annoying right now because at 5 health, with the current board state, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, in the early turns of the game, the health on minion is often more important than their attack. They tend to have fairly similar attack values, so they can usually exchange with one another as long as they have enough health. And Councilman is just able to do a lot of damage because it does have so much health that it can often eat multiple minions.
All right, there's a little 20% chance here that the Direwolf Alpha, if it comes out above the Councilman and the Knife Juggler, might snipe the Argent Squire, which will reduce the ability for Terrence to use it as a way to clear up the Councilman later in the game.
Oh!
The hit!
See a little smirk from JBillyB there as the sniper juggler there takes out exactly the right target.
What an evil little man. Oh, goodness, the Lava Burst is 1 turn late.
Yeah, and you know, this basically forces Terrence to exchange both of his minions on board if he does want to get rid of that councilman.
I don't think that's going to happen,
Yeah,
right?
I don't think we'll see that right here. He's just going to go ahead and pick off the other 2 minions
Very
and
reasonable.
set himself up. In this situation, you know, JBillyB, he doesn't really have much of a way to just get through this wolf on the board. So, ooh, though, Forbidden Ritual, that will give him a big board if he does choose to use it now.
I think
he also just play Gormok.
I was going to say, and more importantly, I think what the Forbidden Ritual does is it prevents the Shaman from clearing up your board and the Councilman. Like, yes, you get the attack buff, but this guy dies, right? So the intent is to make sure that Gormok is able to come in for damage on the following turn. With the 5 minions you're putting down, you're going to have at least 4, even if the 2 on board for the Shaman end up going into yours.
Yeah, so Terrence pretty clearly going to use one of his minions here to take out that Councilman. He does have the Ancestral Knowledge to draw some cards, and looks like he's probably going to unlock with his... Well, maybe not. The Flame Juggler gives him a way to actually remove one of these minions on the board as well.
It disables Gormok.
It's true.
Because of the stuff that he's already got on board, can clear up the Councilman with his shield, and then reduce the amount of minions down to 3, disabling the possible Gormok.
Yeah, that's actually a big deal.
Right.
It's a very low chance that he misses here.
I hope for his
this
sake.
somehow goes face.
Okay.
Tentacle down.
The disaster averted.
And here, Terrence, he's just going to go... Oh, he's actually just going to go face.
Well, that is a little bit like Just Saiyin's
this is aggressive
decision recently.
It wouldn't have worked out for him. There would have been the abusive there anyway.
Sure.
But that abusive does allow one of those minions to take something out, and then Gormok can kill another thing. This is a pretty big swing turn for JBillyB.
Right. I wonder if Terrence is playing Lightning Storm in his list, because we've seen a lot of those aggro shamans include a single copy of it. To win the mirror match, usually when they end up, you know, kind of stalemating on the board.
We've often seen a single copy of Elemental Destruction or Storm
right? Yeah.
in some of these decks. And here now, Terrence is pretty far behind on this board. It's an interesting draw with the Totem Golem. He's overloaded for 2 right now, so he has the option of Lava Bursting, or he could potentially Sentinel then Lava Burst, so he can actually get that down, but that would just die to the 2-1.
Right, so maybe Totem Golem and the Sentinel are the better ones, but again, the Gormok just takes such a good trade regardless. You may be more inclined to wait and wait until you can pick up a better board to go off of. Maybe a Flame-Wreathed Faceless, for instance.
And this is why, typically speaking, the Zoo decks tend to do well against the aggro Shaman decks. The ability to just get a bunch of small minions on board that can trade up favorably thanks to attack buffs does mean that the Shaman can often fall behind in the board and have difficulty catching up without AoE effects like that Element Destruction we talked about.
Exactly. So it's really difficult for the... It's a tough matchup, but I'm assuming Terrence was not expecting the Zoo opener. And he queued the Shaman hoping to snipe another class from his opponent.
And Terrence empties his hand here, gets himself a pretty impressive board. This does reduce the cost of Sea Giant down to a very, very low amount, especially Peddler to start things off.
Abusive Sergeant would be good. Elven Archer is good. Everything is good, really, if you think about it. There's a ton of viable options.
Always nice. And you can actually still afford a Life Tap and the Villager.
True. And
then still Sea Giant.
I mean,
actually, I'm curious. He's choosing not to Life Tap yet. Doesn't want to necessarily.
What if he sniped, though, the 1-1?
I'm guessing he's not life tapping at all. He does not want to life tap.
Okay. Okay, sure. Like, if he does, I wasn't.
I was hovering over Sea Giant for a second. I was like, oh God,
something wrong is gonna happen here. Good thing that did not occur. Poor little Sea Giant.
Yeah, now JBillyB able to wipe out Terrence's entire board.
I mean, you win on the back of a board against Shaman very often. Even if you're training what looks like your premium minions, conserving your health when you've got you've got 11 damage a turn here might just be sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be a little bit overly conservative to me.
Yeah.
JBillyB, he's at 20. He's not really at risk, realistically, of dying anytime soon. And he's only going to be drawing 1 card a turn here now, and it's possible for Terrence to keep up at this point. I think if I were in JBillyB's spot, I would likely at least continue to life tap for a little bit, but I can understand his reluctance.
So for only, if only for Doomhammer, right?
I probably wouldn't play that one, though.
Yeah, I think 15 health is kind of a threshold you don't want to cross with the possibility of Rock Biters and Doomhammer, but he's got lethal set up over the next 2 turns.
Right now, he knows Terrence's deck. He knows if Terrence has an answer to the Sea Giant. If there's a Hex, for instance, this actually sets up lethal next turn by playing the Flame Imp. So there's no 2-card combination that can actually kill him. So this, I actually do like this because it does force Terrence to actually deal with his board. And here, for instance, if he had not played the Flame Imp, the Lava Burst Lightning Bolt can take out the 8/8, and then JBillyB would be left with very little actual pressure.
Yeah, right now there's only, like, assuming the Flame Imp dies to the Lightning Bolt, that reduces the amount of damage coming in, but as long as the Sea Giant is up there, then he's still fine. 10 damage found in what looks like, what, 1 draw? Seems to me.
I believe well, it's possible, I think.
Ancestral Knowledge with
Ancestral Knowledge into Rockbiter Doomhammer is a possible road to victory. It's exact lethal that's possible with that exact 3-card sequence.
So he's got 14 damage on board right now. Am I not mistaken? Maybe I'm wrong.
He has 12 at the moment. With the
Direwolf
Alpha,
of course.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Or his opponent could just be dead. That works too. So JBillyB, with his Warlock deck, is able to take down Terrence here. Give that minion the turn to get ready. Try to
give it some time. Come on, man. You gotta stop this.
So this opener for Warlock from JBillyB did its job, took out Terrence's Shaman deck.
I think Terrence right now, this is one of the first few times where I see him just go down one game so quickly early in his match. So I hope that doesn't take him off guard. He's been on such a good run so far.
Yeah, I mean, Terrence has been performing extremely well here. Yeah. A lot of that result has been on the back of that Warlock deck, though. We have seen him play his Reno Lock deck extremely well and take out so many of the opponents who came with their other control decks. Here, though, JBillyB has banned that, and he doesn't have it to fall back on.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, maybe he feels a little less confident about his lineup without the Reno Lock, because he brought it specifically for the purpose of beating greedy control decks, and it might be a bit of a difficult thing to do. But with the Patron in line against the Zoo, we know nowadays that a lot of the reason why people are playing Patron at all on the ladder is because of decks like Zoo that flood the board. Aggro Shaman as well now tends to do so.
Yeah, Patron is a very strong deck against decks that rely on small minions. You not only have Fiery War Axe, but all the various Whirlwind effects. I mean, we even see Wild Pyromancer in Terrence's hand. So lots of ways to deal with a board full of small minions. And also Frothing Berserker, which we also see, can actually present a clock, which is unlike that which more controlling decks tend to have. So it really puts pressure on the Zoo deck's use of its life total as a resource.
Yeah, life tapping feels a little bit more, I guess, dangerous against a Frothing Berserker, but very often they're able to take them out with buff cards such as Abusive Sergeant on Imp Gang Boss. But look at the hand from JBillyB. He's got the Possessed Villager with Imp Gang Boss, very resilient minions on the board. There's very few of those left, that come back to life after they're dealt damage. So Warlock, I want to say, has the monopoly on those sticky minions nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much in the way of Death Rattle minions these days that actually leave bodies behind. A lot of the new Death Rattle cards that we see are things like Undercity Huckster or Shifting Shade. The minions that actually leave bodies behind are a little bit weaker than they used to be. There's Possessed Tauren instead of Piloted Shredder or Nerubian Egg. So
there's also the Twice Summoner, which spawns
Faceless. God, I forget. Faceless something. Faceless 5/5.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's the Faceless 5/5.
As far as I know, that's his name. Okay.
So Finley here gets picked up by Terrence and the Patron. Yeah, the armor up is not worth anything when you're fighting for board very often. It can be useful to survive against a deck like Zoo. But usually you'll want to get yourself something like an equalization for the card advantage that they generate, especially without Battle Rage ready.
I mean, this is a matchup where your opponent is putting pressure in your life, though. You are fighting for the board more than anything, so it is better to have, say, Shapeshift or Fire Blast, generally speaking. But sometimes you do need to have a little bit of a buffer to survive. Things like the Doom Guards we see there waiting in BillyB's hand.
Yeah, this is an interesting position, though, for JBillyB, because his turn 3 consists of 2 drops, both of which are vulnerable to the War Axe that's equipped, and the 1/1 is also vulnerable to the Armor Smith. So what's going to happen here is what Terrence ends up playing will determine whether or not the Defensive Argus sees any use on the following turn.
Yeah, JBillyB does set up that Voidwalker to protect his board, but Terrence finds a patron. Not super exciting here. He is just going to go ahead and play Finley to start things off.
Yeah, you've got the Frothing Berserker as well to capitalize on the fact that you're dealing damage to things. Presenting again, you mentioned
and he does get that Fire Blast. And that's a powerful pickup here for a number of reasons. One, of course, can allow him to actually just ping his opponent's minions and help him with board control. It also can pump up his Frothing Berserker and board, but most importantly, it works incredibly well with Grim Patron.
Right, assuming they leave even only one behind. Very often people try to just leave one patron hoping you don't have another enabler. But as long as that is there, then you always have one. And again, you see the flame have to be used to trade into the Frothing because the threat of it demands an answer, and that's a very costly card to throw away. A Defensive Argus buff for the sole purpose of dealing with a minion, and he's still not ahead on board.
Yeah, Argus is a card that's very important in a lot of spots in many matchups. This is not one of the ones where it's most important because you're not really trying to protect your face quite so much. But the most important thing is that Billy just doesn't have an impressive board presence. You know, he's actually behind on the board against the deck that has more powerful tools later on in the game in many cases.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate here that he won't be able to... he doesn't want to play Forbidden Ritual into this. It just feels horrible, despite the fact... I mean, it's the worst deck to play that against. But Doomguard alone discards a lot of really premium cards.
Yeah, I mean, BillyB's best hope here would be, you know, for this particular turn, Doomguard discarding his things that are not Doomguard.
Right, and then
so he can play Doomguard next turn.
Play the second one, maybe pick up a one-drop to go with
so
it.
many of his cards, yeah, and he's just going to go with that. And he keeps Doomguard. Oh, you see a smile come across his face. That's the perfect setup here.
That is really good for JBillyB.
Yeah, so he's able to take out the Acolyte. Only draws a single card. Terrence finds Whirlwind.
It's rather good, but it's only one patron.
Yeah, I mean, now he doesn't currently have any way to actually deal with this Doomguard, and there's a second one waiting.
Yeah, I must say, I think maybe playing the like a ping on the Doomguard followed by Wild Pyromancer just to get something on the board, and then maybe your board will be able to address his Doomguard. Not knowing, of course, that there's another one in the back end, it probably is the best line of play. You want to get something down here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Terrence decides to do. He wants to chip away at that Doomguard's health. But right now, another perfect draw. He actually has a one-drop to play alongside the second Doomguard. He can clear off the Wild Pyromancer with one of the Doomguards, and then start pushing damage to the face.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think your Doomguards are good. You may not want to damage the second one, but the problem is, if you kill the Wild Pyromancer, you're putting it down to the point where it can die to Finley plus a ping, whereas now you're at least pushing some damage. Execute wasn't there last turn, so your Doomguards are both safe, as far as you know. Ah, Bloodhoof Brave
is interesting because the ability to play Bloodhoof Brave and ping it yourself actually sets it up so that, yeah, and we see exactly that come from Terrence. He's able to enrage his own Bloodhoof Brave, which means that it stands to actually kill one of these Doomguards. Oh, but a Sea Giant!
You know what?
Even more big threats coming out of JBillyB.
I think right now we're gonna have to see a Grom Hellscream try. Like, he's gonna have to kill that other Doomguard, and then buff itself up to the point where the Sea Giant is forced to answer it. But what a difficult spot for Terrence, despite the fact that he's playing such a good matchup as far as he's concerned. He's going to go for the quadruple patron.
Yeah, with that Fire Blast and the Whirlwind, he's able to get in quite the substantial board here. He does kill the half possessed villager, the front half there. There's a Shadow Beast left. That one I know. That's the name I know.
Shadow Beast, sure.
And critically, he leaves the Doomguard with just 3 health.
Well, that Direwolf Alpha forces all the patrons to just go away if he wants to. He can clear up the 3-2 with the 1-1 and clear up the other ones with his minions.
Oh, it looks like he was...
Okay.
Yeah, he actually has the ability to remove the
Deny the patron
threat.
Right.
Is he not going to do it? Oh, dear.
That is... I mean, he might push 13 damage right now. It's not necessarily too bad.
He could just be going to the face, but with Direwolf Alpha, he had the ability to kill the 2 health patron.
Absolutely.
Which would have prevented Terrence from being able to duplicate it all.
Oh, I think that was a slight misplay this turn. There was really no reason not to kill the 3-2 instead of the 3-1. Especially if you were going to play Direwolf Alpha as a result of the following turn.
Yeah, so this actually...
Oh,
dear. And
indeed.
the Ghoul as well. You can drop the Ghoul, which allows Patron to kill the Sea Giant, and then he still has the ping to make another Patron.
Yeah. And
he's actually not going to make another Patron. He's actually just going to kill the Direwolf Alpha.
Okay,
and
so...
send some damage to the face.
Very, very tough position here for JBillyB, who's got really no way to come back in.
He has life tap, but right now, yeah, those if he plays those, he's just throwing them into the ability of Patron to duplicate.
Right. He's throwing them into that ability to duplicate,
but at the same time, he has nothing, no other options really.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like the Doom Guard discarding the non-Doom Guards was a hope to make the best of this bad matchup.
Oh dear, Battle Rage from Terrence.
To see me drawing. I mean, this is just so difficult to handle.
This is a 5-card Battle Rage on a board full of Grim Patrons.
Oh, the value.
Oh, another Battle Rage.
Oh, the evil Battle Rages.
Oh dear, and even Armor Smith too, which gives Terrence the ability to pad his life total with armor here as well. This is a spot that it may just be impossible for JBillyB to climb back from.
Yeah, and before Doom, 10 just a comeback mechanism.
Suddenly just appears out of nowhere in his deck.
Suddenly Doom. Doubling the rage for removal purposes. You know what? In this matchup, that's probably the best you're going to get, because as long as the Zoo's not on the board, you're good to go.
Yeah, many cases players don't want to waste their inner rages in a situation like that, but in the position that Terrence is in now, he just has such a dominant board state. That's not where Gormok is good.
This could give him the Tentacle of N'Zoth for a 1-damage AoE, which would kill him.
Well, BillyB concedes, and now the match is even at 1 game apiece.
Right. So I keep going back to that moment where he chose not to play the Direwolf Alpha. We'll probably have to, maybe discuss it with him afterwards. But I wonder if he just didn't catch it.
It's possible. It's possible. Though it's worth noting that it's possible that game still
would have ended
goes out of reach.
Sure. Yeah.
From that spot. I mean, having the Grim Patron, the ability to duplicate it, ended up giving Terrence an enormous advantage. But it's possible that with what Terrence was able to bring to bear after that he may still have been able to win that game.
Right, I mean, Double Doomguard was gone, Sea Giant was also gone at that point, so you really didn't have much of a comeback mechanism afterwards. The big threats were gone, effectively. So, I mean, it's still a really difficult matchup for Zeus, so no surprise there. We're going to see Terrence replay his Patron up against JBillyB's Paladin, which looks more like a control deck than an aggressive one, right?
He had said that his lineup in general was quite aggressive, but this looks like a much more controlling deck than we were discussing that it might be.
Yeah, I feel like, oh yeah, definitely not the aggressive deck that was spoiled to us.
But it's interesting his choice to keep both Consecration and Kodo in his opening hand.
Right, the Kodo obviously having to do with Bloodhoof Brave right now, Acolyte of Pain, Armor Smith, lots of really good targets in the deck. Consecration, however, you do need to get the equality to make anything of it against Patron. Otherwise, very often you end up just duplicating them.
Yeah, and he draws a second copy of Consecration, so pretty reactive hand here from JBillyB.
Yeah, I mean, so the Coin Acolyte is very strong here, barring Rallying Blade, which a lot of Control Paladins have been including, but barring that, you rarely have a way. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people have been including it in their lists to...
That's news to me.
Yeah, I was speaking with Kayuki a little bit earlier.
You call that a control paladin?
Raynad had 2 of them in his list. He dropped out early, unfortunately, but it would have been great to see. I blame the Wi-Fi.
Or at least he does.
He does. He blames the Wi-Fi. I don't know who's responsible for this. So, looks like spawning an additional 1/1 does not feel appealing, but the alternative is Aldoring on this turn. If there were a War Axe, you wouldn't have seen it. So, doesn't tell you anything.
The Eldar here, not really super exciting, but this is also a matchup in which...
Oops.
No,
Battle Rage, sorry, my bad. Yes, my bad, my bad.
This is a situation where JBillyB, he did not miss 1 damage.
JBillyB.
He, in fact, is choosing to not attack the face because he wants to play around the threat of Battle Rage.
Right, Battle Rage draws you a card for each damage-friendly character, and your hero is a character.
It's true, and it's also friendly.
Yes, well, sometimes, I don't know. Garrosh is not too friendly.
I will crush you.
Hello, friend. Magni, I think, is a much nicer fellow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Magni is definitely my favorite. I think just my favorite hero in general.
No.
By my beard. He also had the only actually sincere-sounding sorry emote.
Oh, so sorry, friend.
So sorry, friend.
Yeah, it feels really bad.
Everyone else, it's like, They just,
Oh, I'm so sorry for punching you in the face.
yeah,
Oh,
but
come on,
Magni,
Jaina.
He sold it. He really did.
Yeah, I think the voice actor for Magni needs to come back for another dwarf. I mean,
All right, well, anyway, in this actual game, we're watching.
in this one, in the non-Magni.
There's actually very little action going on,
So
though.
we can
Terrence
go back to Magni, right?
Terrence has a Frothing Berserker. It's pretty big, and JBillyB, he did use that Aldor the previous turn, and now has no real answer to this this Frothing Berserker here that's threatening to grow quite large.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Ravaging Ghoul as well, as we see in Terrence's hand, and this card is one of the reasons why Frothing is so powerful. You end up in many spots against, say, Forbidden Ritual, where not only can you clear out the board, but if you can also, at the same time, later in the game, enable a Frothing Berserker, then the Zoo player has nothing to do, and Paladin is especially vulnerable here.
And chooses, once again, not to attack. Missed one damage, Smork. But, ooh,
okay.
Ravaging Ghoul will make this a very, very
8
large...
attack. 8 attack.
Yeah. 1 damage to each of these, and pumps up the Ravaging Ghoul to 8. Hits BillyB in the face for 8.
What did you think of maybe attacking into the Frothing with the 1/1 the turn prior? Because then Consecration
It's
may
true.
work if the Whirlwind were there.
Yeah, now JBillyB, he has no actual ability to clear this off. He could cast Consecration, try and kill this over 2 turns, but Consecration pumps up the Frothing by 2 more. He does choose to just play a Stampeding Kodo.
Uh-oh. I can smell the disaster. I mean, the Consecration was bad because you committed to the second one into the Grim Patron turn, but these Whirlwinds, could that just be it? I haven't done the math.
No, Whirlwinds are each 3 damage, so he has 6 there, so 14, 15, 16, 17 from the Whirlwind.
Well, if you play Korkron and
play
Whirlwind,
Korkron is 4, Whirlwind is 4.
that's 8.
Good math.
Yeah, so that's 23 damage. Is that 23
No,
damage?
you just added it because you
Another
you
4?
can only cast 1 Whirlwind.
Right. So
Right,
there's
so he
missing
actually-
one mana.
Yeah, he can actually do 8 with that, so it's 16, 19 is, I believe, the ability, the maximum damage you can do this turn.
Right. So in a nutshell, pretty much exactly what we had prior. So you might play it a bit slower, but the thing is you really don't want to Whirlwind into Consecration if you're hoping to extract value out of this turn. So you might go Armor Smith, Whirlwind, Battle Rage
Yeah,
to replenish your
I think
hand.
that's what we might see, because it will draw Terrence 3 cards. Crucially, not 4,
Right.
because JBillyB has chosen not to actually attack hit into his face here. So
Oh, it looks like we're not going to
he's
see the
actually
Battle
just going
Rage.
for damage. Okay.
Well,
Oh,
let's
he did
do
the
this.
other minion, so this is not quite lethal. I didn't actually calculate the
Plus
the
8, well, it's
possibility of playing the
16.
Armor Smith
It's
before.
19 still. I think it's the same amount we
it's still
calculated with
19,
the Korkron.
so it ends up being, yeah, he just got 4 additional from that rather than
And
the,
you win
the
on
other one,
Korkron.
but-
So I like that play. Sets up a really good lethal.
I mean, this is just going to be game here. You know, the Consecration will clear the board, but JBillyB's down to just 3 life. But TerrenceM, he has Korkron Elite to come in and charge for the victory.
Yeah, and this could be a Fiery War Axe. It could be just about anything.
There's any number of things. JBillyB,
Right.
we see him just picking up his pen, taking some notes. He knows this one is over.
Yeah, but this is not a matchup you expect to lose necessarily so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really, really explosive opening here. Frothing Berserker kind of doing what Frothing Berserker can do in those sort of situations. And like you said, you know, we saw JBillyB making those Silverhand recruits, and he chose not to attack face, and he chose not to attack into the Berserker, which meant that he actually had no way to kill the Berserker.
Yeah, one of the things that people do in this matchup is they simply do not make the recruits at all. You simply do not spawn them. You do not fuel Acolytes, Armor Smiths, Frothing Berserkers at all. So you simply do not produce anything for your opponent to interact with.
All right, well, will be down to JBillyB's last deck for him. He is also playing what looks to be perhaps Patron Warrior, perhaps the
Tempo.
mid-range Warrior.
Could be Control as well at this point. It could, like,
Armor
these cards...
Smith typically indicates that you're not playing a heavy control deck.
Right, not
Usually
anymore.
Armor Smith indicates, nowadays,
Yeah.
you know, there was a time that Armor Smith was a staple card in Control Warrior. That was more when there were lots of Leper Gnomes out everywhere, and attacking into 2/1s was a very good way to reduce the incoming damage in the early game.
Yeah, so this Surfinly Murgleton is especially good here, especially if the deck is a bit slower than yours, then you stand to benefit a lot from just being able to life tap without relying on cards like Battle Rage, cards like Slam. So opening up with Finley is great. And Magni!
Oh,
Oh!
JBillyB playing. I have to root for him now.
Yeah,
if I wasn't already, he's playing Magni.
I can't realistically root for anyone else. I want to know what hero power comes up for Terrence, because it may be a disaster. There's a lot of worse ones. You may be stuck with, Fire Blast is okay.
You see a bit of a shake of the head from Terrence. No, he does get Life Tap.
Why the shake of the head?
I mean, Life Tap is powerful. I think he may have preferred Fire Blast, perhaps.
Maybe.
I mean, this is a matchup that isn't necessarily one which your life total is just free to burn. We did see how much damage could come out of Frothing Berserker in that last game.
Yeah, correct. I wonder if we'll see an Acolyte of Pain here. No, apparently he's just going to clean up the Finley. One of the options was, of course, coin out Acolyte of Pain and get yourself some cards off of that Finley with one attack.
He's just going to go ahead and take it down with Borax here. And then Frothing Berserker.
Yeah, you're going to go. You're going out, my friend. I like the Frothing plus Inner Rage play. I think it's a very good one since you're forcing a Death Bite, which doesn't exist.
Yeah, Death Bite no longer being available in Standard does mean that 4-health minions like the Frothing Berserker are much bigger threats against warrior decks.
Fortunately, there is an answer in the form of Slam and the Blood to Acre and Inner Rage if he doesn't want to play the Bloodhoof Brave. Well, that's a very big commitment. Yeah, I mean, the Bloodhoof Brave is good insofar as you don't run into Execute with an Enabler. So for the time being, it is functional. You really don't want to enable that Bloodhoof Brave at 5 attack.
Oh yeah, I mean, here, JBillyB, he has to be thinking, what's my best way to maneuver around the cards that Terrence could possibly have here? Playing his own Brave and just saying go looks to be like it might be the most attractive option to me. Though that does potentially allow Terrence to enrage his own Brave and attack in first, and then use a some sort of low damage effect to kill JBillyB's.
I kind of like the Acolyte of Pain here. I mean, if he enrages his Bloodhoof through some form of AoE, then at least you draw cards, so it's not too bad.
It's also true that if you did like leave up just the Acolyte and your Frothing, your opponent can't enrage his
with AoE, right?
Well, he can't enrage his and kill your Frothing without also killing his own
Brave at the same time.
So yeah, there's a lot of just like little minutia here, given the various enrage effects and who can get damaged at what time and what happens if you do it.
So there's a play here with Blood to Acre on your own Bloodhoof. You get a minion first, which is great, and you can also put your opponent's Bloodhoof down to 1.
Which you could then remove with Inner Rage if you
want. There's a lot of ways to do that. And because you have the Slam as well, you can use that to finish off the other Frothing Berserker. So lots of little plays that can be made this game, and this is definitely one of them. Even better. This is like 10 times better. Yeah.
Battle Rage, all right. And is he going to go with...
Sure.
Interesting. Just attacks in here. This will pump up the Berserker to 6 attack here. Oh, no, 7 rather. But right now, there's that Brave protecting him. Oh, an Execute comes off the top for JBillyB. That does give him a potentially clean answer to the Bloodhoof Brave if he wants to use that here.
So I was thinking, there's no point to buffing up or damaging your Frothing yourself, since then you're enabling the Execute for your opponent by using the Ghoul. So just getting 7 damage in is worth a lot.
Yeah. Don't want to miss 7 damage.
Nope, not in this matchup at least.
Would never forgive you.
He's on life tap too, so his health buffer it can't go up. It simply can't go up unless Armorsmith ends up giving him a ton.
Yeah, the relative value of damage to your opponent's face increases dramatically when they use Finley and switch their hero power away from Armor Up, and obviously is particularly high when they do get life tap as well.
Right. So in this spot, it looks like the Frothing will go down anyway. And it's funny how it's been like a battle of Frothing Berserkers. I play mine, you play yours, and whoever ends up with the biggest one at the end of the game wins the match. And it's looking like, from our perspective, BillyB does not have a clean way to remove his opponents right now.
Yeah, I mean, he has Ravaging Ghoul that he'd love to play to draw cards off of his Acolyte, but that would just buff his opponent's Frothing quite a bit. And he has Bloodhoof Brave, but again, Bloodhoof Brave buffs his opponent's Frothing quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
if he has to enrage it. Then.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really tricky spot to be in, for sure. I'm wondering if maybe you're not looking to dig for Execute on the Acolyte. You attack the Slime.
Yeah, I think you want to attack first because it gives you more information about making your decisions for the turn.
Okay.
He doesn't want to tap last, as it were.
Yes.
And now, I mean, the Bloodhoof Brave coin ghoul is, you know, an option here because it enrages his Brave, will allow it to potentially take down the opponent's frothing Berserker if it were to attack in.
Doesn't have the execute.
Draws another card, kills the slime. So here he's kind of relying on the fact that Terrence doesn't have any way to get through this Brave, which is really, it's the only thing between him and a huge Berserker.
Yeah, and it doesn't take too much for this Berserker to win the game on its own again.
Yeah, but the Wild Pyromancer actually threatens to take it down. Terrence, with that Pyromancer plus Slam plus the Blood Taker, could clear this this Brave out of the way and hit for the face for a lot.
That's 16, 17 plus another 4. 21 damage, I think, coming in here off the Blood Taker.
Like a world record, I think. Oh my! He can't use the Whirlwind. Though. It would kill his own guy.
That would not be a wise decision.
But he can. Oh, he's. Looks like Look for a second that he's reaching the Whirlwind for me, and I was like, that would not be good.
Yeah.
That would work out very poorly. But yeah, we're gonna see
23.
A huge Smork hit right here. That
23
is
damage.
23 to the face of JBillyB.
You are not missing that.
That is.
Oof. That hurt.
And yeah,
but it's not over though.
For JBillyB,
it isn't over.
It is not yet over, though. JBillyB does not have many resources to work with here. He's gonna look to Battle Rage, perhaps.
An Armor Smith would be one of the best draws probably because it gives him a bit of armor on the back of this Ravaging Eagle to clear out the board. He could play Frothing with his own Whirlwind, but that does not leave him any mana for armor up, which right now feels like a mandatory option.
He can go face, armor up, and play Ravaging Ghoul.
Right, that is the play that I thought he would make.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to likely do that. It keeps him alive from Procron Elite, saves him from a possible Fiery War Axis going to his face. The difference between 3 and 4 and 5 life, huge here in terms of his ability to survive the next turn.
Alright, so Whirlwind gets picked up for the double patron turn, of course. That is going to give him a ton of them to operate with, which incidentally puts JBillyB in a really tough spot.
Yeah, double Whirlwind here, 4 patrons on the board. There's very little that the patron deck can actually do to clear off this big board here. And we see Grom, he needs to get rid of more of these than that.
So if you attack that's one of the problems that patron...
His removal spells are Whirlwinds. They're not going to do anything here. He can kill one patron. He can Ragnaros.
So here's the thing. Like,
is his plan kill patron Ragnaros? Hope to kill one. No, he doesn't.
One of the ways that patron used to, like, I don't know if this is possible here, but you could technically, play your own patron Whirlwind to duplicate his. And I think there's a point where they have a lot of 1-health patrons, and they're just not replicating anymore. The problem is because
there's still some in play.
You need three Whirlwinds to do that. From 4 you can clean up the board with 3 Whirlwinds, if I recall, back in the patron days.
I think that works.
It used to work, right? You fill out the board and then they don't replicate if the board is full of 1-1s.
Right. If their entire board.
Right. If it's completely full.
If somehow it's entirely full of one health patrons. But yeah, this is gonna be it. There's no way out for JBillyB. Decides to go out in style. Whirlwind, give you a board full. And TerrenceM will be moving on to the finals.
And Terrence, again, just showing the consistency in the event. Frodan, I'm a little sad that your favorite name is not making it through.
JBillyB, but you know what? A heck of a run by TerrenceM. He is going to the grand finals to play in the Hearthstone Grand Prix Championships. What a great story for this young man from New York. It's not his first DreamHack. He went to compete last year in winter, but it didn't work out for him in Sweden. But again, he stayed with it, and he said it himself in his interview last time. Just stay dedicated, keep trying, and eventually you'll have the variant swing up the other way. You'll have the good results the good results will come if you're a good player, that is. And for a player of Terrence's caliber, it comes as a surprise it didn't come sooner, but I mean, better later than never. This guy is definitely on something special here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's performed incredibly well throughout the tournament. We were saying, perhaps that special sort of Reno Warlock deck was the secret to success, but he showed in this matchup that he was able to get things done even when it was banned.
Yeah, and he's able to play Patron Warrior. It felt a little scary when he dropped the first game there, and I was just like, okay, well maybe things start getting downhill. Felt like when Zoo gets started, it doesn't really stop. But you know, it was able to weather that and really come back in. So Terrence is waiting for another quick interview. We'll just welcome him back onto the stage, just to chat with him a little bit and ask about what is it like being in the finals. So Terrence, I just want to ask you, man, you're in the finals again. You're back here second time today. What's going through your head, man?
I mean, I was like really nervous, like during the Zoo game, where I was like, "Is that another Doom Guard?" Like, and then it's like a Sea Giant 2, okay, all right. And then like once I got the Ravaging Ghoul, I was like, all right, that's just a win. Like, there's no way I'm losing from that position. But definitely really nervous with the double Doom Guard Sea Giant, and then with the Frothing Berserker, I was like, is he mousing over hero power? Like, no True Silver? Like, and then he just had no answer to it.
Nothing
so
at all, yeah.
Consecration is what it must be, so I can't Whirlwind to like do one Whirlwind and execute. I either had to go for the win or play really conservative. So I'm just like, all right, if he has to Consecration, he has to have Forbidding Healing. Or he has to have Forbidding Healing and Wild Pyromancer. And if it's Forbidding Wild Pyromancer, I get to Battle Rage after that, so, because I had the Armor Smith at 2 health. So it'd be at 1, I'd be able to get the 2 draws at least. So I was definitely fine with going for the win in a like unfavored matchup.
Yeah.
Pretty solid logic through and through. Going up against JBillyB, he's also sort of like in the same boat, you know, as he's making a miracle run that he never really expected to. You know, going into the series, did the strategy execute as you planned? Because again, you know his decks, he knows your decks. How did that dynamic work going into the semifinals?
I wasn't really sure on what he would ban. Like, Reno Lock's an okay ban. Shaman's also an okay ban, but I was kind of surprised with the Reno Lock ban. So I was like, oh, is this going to come down to like Patron Warrior 50-50s? Because the Rogue, if they have the Patron hand, then Rogue can get beat by Patron. And then, what's my third deck? Shaman?
Shaman as well. Yeah, there was a
deck
Shaman
I
deck,
never
yeah.
played. Yeah, Shaman can get beat by the Patron too, like if they have the execute for the 7/7 or whatever and the War Axe start.
Yep.
So
Yep, makes sense.
definitely nervous for the Patron because I didn't have the Reno Lock to like go back on, but it went as planned. I planned to like just throw away the Shaman so I have a really safe, like I could have picked Patron first, but then if he picks Paladin, then I'm in a pretty bad position.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
I just
Unless
wanted to throw
Frothing.
away the Shaman and then get like the lineup, get the matches that I want.
Cool. Speaking of matches that you won, there's Chalky versus Peyton on the other side of the bracket. Is there any player that you want to play specifically? Either for like advantage or just because there's more meaning to it?
I'm really rooting for Chalky. Just like it would be nice to play like be in the finals and play like a known player and then beat them. That would be cool. And Peyton too. Like I played Peyton before, so I won't be surprised with like the Reno Freeze Mage anymore. But I don't know. I'm okay with playing either.
Did he beat you in the Swiss?
No, I beat him in the
Okay,
Swiss.
sure. So you know
Oh
what it was.
yeah, he played and he beat him.
He beat him in the Swiss. Yeah, that's what I remember.
All
That
right,
was a
well,
truly epic match.
seems like you've got all of your ducks in a row, man. Congratulations. Are you feeling tired at all? You've been playing for the first match today at 10 a.m. and now we're all the way like in the semifinals at this point.
Yeah, I didn't make the best decisions last night. I didn't go straight home.
All right.
But I left at 1:30, so I got a decent amount of sleep. So.
All right, well, you get a little bit of a break. We're going to go to semifinal number 2 between Peyton and Chalky. One winner of that will go on to play against Terrence in the grand final. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back after this break. When we come back, second semifinal, all the way to crown a champion here at the Hearthstone Grand Prix. Stay tuned.